Welcome back to Daily Dive. Mike and I were talking about the injury report coming out of Bandit Land. Well, now let's go head over to Calgary with Roughnecks analyst and just a great person all around back here on Daily Dive, Ryan Ballantine. Welcome back, Ryan.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thanks again for having me.
Yes, of course. Now, last time you were here, we were just talking about Calgary's start to the season. Well, what a start they've had. Undefeated 2-0. Of course, both of those wins against the Warriors. But a win is a win, and a 2-0 start is a 2-0 start. So having been around the team and being able to see what's going on behind the scenes, talk to us about what really gave Calgary that advantage to not only knock off the Warriors once, but twice. That's hard to do in back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, winning back to back isn't easy, especially when you're looking at what the Roughnecks are trying to do this year, which is kind of rebuild their identity, figure out who they are, and figure out what they're going to be, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It certainly doesn't hurt that Del Bianco has done what he's done through these first couple games, making saves out of nowhere and really kind of keeping his team in it. And that allowed the Roughnecks to come out and get this 2-0 start. I think in the West Division right now, you need to be able to beat Vancouver if you're going to be able to want to be competitive. You can't afford to give away any games to the teams that are kind of below you in the standings and expectations. And they're going to have much tougher competition this week, I think. But you needed to beat Vancouver twice if you wanted to give yourself that momentum heading into this weekend.
That's a really great point. You talk about needing to just take care of business. Win the games that you're supposed to win. You don't want to slip up and now, cost yourself 3 points in a game that's winnable. And to be able to knock off Vancouver twice, who's a team that is just coming into every game as an underdog, trying to steal a win, trying to get a win. So that's a great point you make of just taking care of business. And as you talk about a big game this weekend, as we are returning back from the holiday break, first of all, I feel so rude. I hope you had a great holiday. We're still in the holiday season.
And right back at you. I had a nice Christmas here with the family, and I hope you got to do the same.
Likewise, we're just business as usual, but completely forgot to say happy holidays to you. And as we have the holidays coming up, talking about the new year, also it's a chance for the Roughnecks to take on the Seals this weekend. Friday night's game, a big game as we talk about. We talk about it facing teams that are below in expectations. Well, the Seals are a team that's got a lot of expectations. In fact, some championship expectations coming into the season. So what does Calgary need to do as we're talking about still finding that identity to really get the win over the Seals and what could be considered an upset?
Well, there's a bit of a holiday theme to this game as Calgary is going to have to excise some of the ghosts of Roughnecks past. As you look at this Seals team, you've got Doby, Dixon, and Berg all on the offensive side of the ball. All of them started their careers here and were very prolific for the Roughnecks. And then you've got Frankie Chiliano in the net as well. And he's also, he was the guy that was let go here in Calgary in favor of Christian Del Bianco. So you've got a lot of former Roughnecks doing very well out in San Diego. Calgary's going to have to do what they did the last 2 weeks, which is play great defensive lacrosse, not allow these guys to get to the net, isolate one-on-one as they're as Doby and Dixon are great at doing when they play that one-man game by themselves out of the corners. So you're going to have to protect from that happening. And then on the offensive side of the ball, keep doing what they're doing there as well, which is scoring from everybody. There hasn't been, one guy that's gotten all the points for this team. Jesse King is leading with 11 points. And so he's kind of the guy out front as you expected him to be. But everybody's contributing offensively for this Roughnecks team right now. And even on the transition game, which may be a spot where you can maybe find an advantage over the Seals is in that transition game rather than on 5-on-5.
Yeah, the ghost of Roughnecks past, as you talk about Adobe Dixon, Ball, Chiliano, being able to face former players that spent significant years and were a big part of Calgary. That does add an extra emotional layer. We saw on the in the past 2 games against the Warriors, the physicality, the penalty minutes. Do you anticipate this being a tight game, similar to that, where it's just kind of like you're playing against your former teammates and friends? Or do you think this is going to be a little bit more open in that sense?
I don't know if it'll be. I think it might get chippy if it's close late. I think there's a lot of guys that want to prove their, Curtis Dixon, I'm sure, wants to prove that he made the right decision. From what I've heard, he turned down more money to stay in Calgary to go to San Diego because he expected to have a championship run possibility in San Diego with the team that they have there, and didn't know that Calgary was a spot that could happen. So I think in that way, there's going to be a lot of those guys on the Seals that want to prove that they are in the right. They've made the right decision in going to San Diego and leaving Calgary and leaving behind a team where they won championships to go there. So I think it could get chippy late because these are guys that have a competitive fire, that is. I don't want to say unmatched in the NLL, but they're certainly in those top desire guys. I mean, Dane Dobbie will sacrifice every part of his body for that goal, and Curtis Dixon has taken an absolute beating his entire career in his willingness to get to the net and score. And I definitely know that Calgary's defense knows them well, knows their moves well, and will be looking to shut them down and provide some of that punishment themselves.
Yeah, that familiarity is key, as well as just to talk about those other storylines, the deeper components of what led to them leaving Calgary, and not being always as amicable, being something that was a tough decision, a personal decision, a decision in positioning, as you talk about Christian Del Bianco taking over the goalie role, and Frank Chiliano, moving to San Diego. So there's some other components here that, as you talk about, if this game is closely, I agree. I imagine it could become chippy and become a little bit more personal in that sense. But as you also talk about with Christian Del Bianco, he's been playing amazing. You look at the 2 games, the amount of saves and the quality of saves. Like, he's not just recording 50 saves, 48 saves. He's making some like on his head types of plays that is just like, how did you see that? How did you make that happen? I mean, how important is it for him to have started off the season this way and also to continue this incredible play that we've been seeing from him?
Well, I think he's been the key to the Roughnecks' success for several seasons now. When Del Bianco is on, the Roughnecks come away with a victory. He's got an 86% save percentage, which is ridiculous. He had shut down the Warriors for a good long time. I think at one point he was at 97 or 98% save percentage against the Warriors last week. And he ends up with an 86 on the season so far. He's only allowing 7 goals against, which is by far the lowest goals against for a goalie that has played full-time minutes, as Del Bianco has. So, I mean, you also have to credit the defense. They are getting him good looks at most of those shots, but he has made 1 or 2 saves a game that are just mind-bending. I think back to the game last week, coming across and just firing the stick out and robbing one of the Warriors players who had an open cage until Del Bianco shifted his attention over there. It was remarkable.
Oh yeah. And as a goalie, you want your players to make all the expected saves, and you want your goalie to then make that spectacular save, that's that mind-blowing one, like you talk about against the Warriors that we saw. And so before we head out of here, and I just wanted to get your final predictions. Of course, we've got a game headed kicking off Friday night, so had to get your quick predictions on the score and who you think is going to win in the Calgary Seals game.
Well, I think interestingly, you're at home for Calgary this week, and that may be what makes the difference. The Rough House will be rocking. They'll have a really great crowd, I think, coming out to see a 2-0 team in a time where a lot of people aren't working the next day because it's New Year's Eve. So you can get out. The atmosphere will be, going pretty good, I think. And so I don't expect a blowout in one way or another, probably a tight game, 1, maybe 2 goals. But maybe that home crowd can drive the Roughnecks to success, and they can, kind of shock the world, if you will. I think they've looked better than people expected them to look this far in the season. and we'll see if they can ride that emotion coming in, because at the same time, you've also going to have the emotion from the other side of these guys that are coming back and wanting to prove something. And sometimes when you need something and you want something so badly, you end up gripping the stick a little tighter, and you make those mistakes that you might not have made if you just kind of came in without that emotion. So we'll see what the driver is, and I think this game could go either way. But as a Roughnecks guy in the rough house, let's take Calgary for the win by 1.
Yeah, I would definitely have you picking Calgary to win the game. And as you mentioned, we'll see how the pressure and these other storylines play a factor, if at all, in the results of this game. So, Ryan, I appreciate you taking time to join us here, always bringing the great NLL insight, as well as the great beard game that you bring, one of the best across lacrosse, without a doubt. So we'll see how that prediction pans out, if Calgary is able to knock off San Diego by 1. But either way, it's teeing up to be a great game Friday night. So thank you for joining us here on Daily Dive.
Yeah, looking forward to coming back anytime. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.